So I think the topic we wanted to bring to the fore, and when we design the agenda, it becomes very challenging for us to cover all the things we want because we have a lot more ideas and things we can cover. But there were two things that were really critical. One is the whole piece of millennials. I think millennials are not only an important part of India's population, but it's an increasing percentage of our population. And I was reading it's somewhere around 46%. Increasing up to 65% by 2022. But when Amit and I were discussing with Abhishek, he said we have over 70% of population in millennials. So it is a very, very important segment of our hiring population. And the other piece is how do we really create an employer brand in the context of TA? How do we create something that is relevant for them? So what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief about Abhishek and Amit, just as a quick background. And then we're going to just quickly jump in. And we'll try to make it as interactive as always, as possible as we can. So Amit heads HR for Nestle. You're a veteran in Nestle.
Almost 14 years now.
So he's grown within the ladder to head HR today. He's worked both in Switzerland and India. And I think when I look at his profile and the work he's done, he's always been a person who has been very, very close to the business, always very close to execution, and very passionate about the ethos of Nestle and really rising that flag of a company of 104 years, but still trying to innovate themselves every time. So thank you, Amit, for joining us. Abhishek Humbad is the founder, CEO of Goodera. I think many of you have had the opportunity to experience the volunteering activity we did in the morning. Goodera is a CSR volunteering platform, and Abhishek is a millennial himself.
Yeah.
So you're representing a CEO millennial who hires a lot of millennials, and also a company that works with many organizations to engage and retain millennials as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us. So quickly, what we're going to do is we're going to spend just a couple of minutes quickly to say, okay, how are millennials different? And I would love to hear from the audience as well. And don't go to the stereotypes. Really reflect and think about the millennial. How many of you have more than 50% millennials in your workforce? Okay. More than 60? Okay. More than 70%? Okay, great. So all of us, I think, have enough experience. How many of us are millennials? I would wish to put my hand up, but okay, great. Okay, so what is truly different about millennials? If we could hear from the audience itself, don't go to the stereotypes. Don't go to the things what you've heard. I would love to hear what you've experienced. Anybody? Yeah, instant gratification? Yeah. They get bored, constant change. Yeah, this side. Passionate. Okay, good balance. Tech, human. Sorry. Vibrant. Okay. Risk-taking. Confused. Okay, interesting. Yes. They don't want to be constrained by stuff. Okay. No time dimension, no space dimension. Comfortable with flux, okay? Sorry, 1 second, I'm coming to the process oriented. Law of ambiguity, multitasker. No process oriented. Innovative, no concept of jobs. Oh my God. Okay. Values. Very nice. So I think that's a great segue of what does that mean from employer brand perspective. And I'm going to ask first Amit, and then I'm coming to you, Abhishek, as a person who hires a lot of millennials as well. What does this all mean from employer branding perspective?
Well, first and foremost thing, I would say that, it's very great to have such kind of a diverse opinion coming from all of you. Maybe it would be worthwhile for us to also step back a little bit and talk about the fact that, when you really talk about millennials, each one of us, whether it's Nestle or any of your premier esteemed organization where you work for, would like to keep your organization pretty young. And it is these millennials, whatever we might call them, I would rather call them youngsters, actually are the people who make our organization young. And for me, the biggest benefit that they bring to any company is the fact that they will always keep you on toes. And to be honest, if you see millennials more from an investment point of view, it's like these are the people who are going to be the future of the organization. Yeah. The reason why, we as an organization have been in existence for almost like 105 years now is the fact that we have been investing a lot in terms of hiring youngsters on an ongoing basis. I still remember, way back when I joined 14 years back now, I never expected that I'll be completing 14 years with Nestle. Yeah. But opportunities came on at the right time, and I was given those opportunities very progressively on an ongoing basis. Now, if you really see, the average years of Nestle used to be, when I joined, was around 15 years kind of a thing. So typically when anybody, if you would like to introduce yourself, how many years, months? Generally I used to say 7 or 8, not to disclose whether it's years or months. So from that point of view till where we stand today, almost like 70% of the workforce being millennials, we have come a long way. And what ma'am said right now, sitting in the back, is the fact that personally I feel that what drives high level of engagement in millennials today is the purpose and the values of the organization. And to be honest, it's good to talk about the fact that, every person has a value, every organization has a value, but how do you ensure actually that each and every individual in the organization is living that value will drive a high level engagement. That's what we have seen so far. Coming back to one more thing, just to add on to those diverse opinions which came, would be the fact that, these millennials, gone are the days, when we joined as a management trainee in any organization, a bit of the entire work was assigned to you. And the moment you used to get a bit of that big work, you were quite satisfied that, have something to look forward to, something to do. But today, if you see, most of the millennials look at end-to-end work. They don't talk about, give me A piece and I will not do the D piece. They would like to do A from Z piece. There comes the biggest challenge, and personally I feel that, we as HR, because we are also responsible for getting these millennials on board, is that what are we doing to educate the leadership team in the organization? Because typically, these leaders are people who are from our baby boomers to Generation X. How do you make them realize what these set of population really look forward to is a big challenge or big transition that we as an organization are also going through. But good part is the fact that as a company, what we intend to create is that kind of a culture within the company that any millennial whom we hire from outside gets an opportunity to experiment something, maybe, what you have started as a startup, a kind of a startup culture within the company as well, which creates a little bit of excitement that, you have a space, your own space to work on, your own ideas are being appreciated, you have your own logic, your own rationale being liked by people, and you really see a lot of value addition coming from a business point of view as well. So somewhere, this kind of a work has helped us big time. Good part is that even from a retention point of view, last year we ended up with a single-digit employee turnover. And if I look at my millennials, it was as low as maybe 2 or 3% kind of a thing. So, those are the kind of things, we have started working on as an organization, which is keeping us quite engaged and going.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Abhishek. I'm coming to you in a minute, but before I do that, what is the one thing that you've changed from employer brand perspective? Because as you said, 15 years ago when you joined, vis-a-vis what's today, and obviously Nestle is a very well-known brand, so that's a plus, but it's also you're competing with the more, digital, sexy companies, whatever you call those. Yeah. So what is the one thing you've changed in your employer brand to attract
two things. I would say two things that we have invested a lot of time and effort. One is the fact that we have invested big time in terms of digital acceleration team, because most of the, gone are the days that you will have investment going only on television, but it's more digital, and social media has become quite prominent for us as a company. And second, I would say the biggest attribute for attracting millennials for us as an organization has been the fact that we have been giving early responsibilities to these millennials in the very early stages of their career. It's a question of, taking chances on people, but we prefer to take chance on people rather than, having any doubts. And so far, it's worked pretty well for us. Just to give you a perspective and to quantify, as an organization, we went through this Maggie crisis, where we almost bounced back. And that was the era where there was a lot of uncertainty among employees. Good part has been the fact that, when we went through this crisis, one of the key aspects, and thanks to these millennials, when we relaunched this Maggie noodles, it was an idea which came from one of the millennials that why don't we explore extensively the e-commerce platform, which we were generally talking about whether to go or not to go, etc. But it was a big hit for us as a relaunch. Second, in terms of the opportunities that we give to these millennials is quite exciting. To the extent that today, if you look at, brands like Maggi, a brand manager of a Maggi would be maybe a management trainee of a 2015, 16. So that's the kind of early responsibility that we intend to give to these millennials. Coming back to my friends said that, they're confused. Somebody said, I agree that they're definitely confused.
So are we.
Yeah, and that's our responsibility as a leaders to navigate those confusion in the right direction. And trust me, friends, my personal feeling has been the fact that the value these people bring, the IQ, the intelligence that these people have, is immense. They are capable of doing a job of a traditional, maybe, pardon my saying, of 2 or 3 people can be done by one person if navigated well. So that would be...
Thank you. Thanks, Amit. So I'm coming to you, Abhishek, and you wear 3 hats for me in this panel. One is you're a millennial yourself, who had the choice to join an organization when you finish your postgraduate, but we didn't have a strong employer brand enough to attract you. You also run an organization which is fully employed by millennial colleagues. And the third is that you run a platform that today has over 3 lakh volunteers, and majority of the dynamics of the platform and the volunteering is actually driven by millennials. So take us through these 3 hats.
Sure, and I think just by the way of introduction, Goodera, we are a CSR technology platform which companies use to one is manage the impact, measure the impact of their CSR dollars. So for example, in India today, about 25% of India's CSR money is managed on our platform, for 2,500 crores a year. And there's an employee volunteering platform which enables employees to volunteer. It's like an Airbnb for volunteering in a very layman terms. So, I graduated out of IIM Bangalore, and, there were a lot of recruiters who came on campus and, said a whole bunch of different things. And there were, all the pizza parties and, a whole bunch of stuff. And, we were there and we knew that we just had to attend them because there was mandatory attendance. There was, no other reason. And, I think at the other side, we always felt that, companies are trying to sell a lot, but, we could easily identify what works and what doesn't. And, I think all the flowery stuff actually doesn't. It's actually the mission and the impact and, those things which actually excited us more. So when we started, Goodera, and, almost 18-90% of our employees base now, spread across US and India is millennials. Our entire thought process was that, we would do what we sell. So for example, let's say, we have a volunteering platform. The first thing we did was got our, engineers and our team to volunteer. And when they said that it makes sense and there is value to it, that's when we went to the market. And that's when we went and sold. And that basically, helped in different ways. So one is every engineer knew about the product. As in, that's a big problem because engineers don't know what they're building sometimes. And the second is they were more committed towards, towards the company because they could see the closed loop that the company does what it believes and, sells what actually adds to the value. So I think that helped us tremendously. In terms of, the broad volunteering umbrella and, somehow, and, I wear that hat and, I feel volunteering is very synonymous to millennials. So, millennials want a sense of purpose, as in there is purpose. There is this whole concept of shared economy, as in there's Uber and there's Ola and Airbnb. And volunteering is probably the best example of a shared economy, wherein you do things together. You mentioned that millennials want to take up end-to-end stuff. And, I know a lot of my batchmates who went as interns and, probably didn't have the best experience. It was a very small job. But even if you are an intern and work at a non-profit, you actually be a very critical part of the non-profit and do a large part of the work. So the kind of experience you develop is very different. Millennials want to create impact. So with a small duration, you could actually create impact. So there is a whole bunch of different things which volunteering brings from a millennial mindset, which a lot of HR folks want to build in their company culture. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have seen, whole bunch of different companies, right from the largest e-commerce company in the world to the largest BPO in the world to the largest pharma company in the world using a platform for volunteering, right from the CEO to a delivery boy, volunteering. And I think it's a win-win for everyone, for the company, for the employee, for the non-profit, and for the society at large. And that's what we aim to create.
Wonderful. So tell me, how do you think, and maybe it's too early to say, but how do you think organizations providing opportunities, as our colleague was saying, of fulfilling that personal purpose, how is that being leveraged today on employer branding? Do you think it's early to say, or are companies already leveraging that as a differentiator?
So, interestingly, one of our clients said that, the volunteering work which our employees have done is the best thing that they have posted on social media about the company. Yeah. And, that's like so much good content which they create. And for us also, when we started, we knew our product wasn't good. Internally, we thought it was almost shitty. But, the kind of ratings we got was like 4.5 out of 5. And we are like, people like doing it. Yeah. And people want to do it. And people want to talk about it. Yeah. And that's why, we could see companies then saying, okay, our social media is filled with employees talking good about the company, which isn't always, it's difficult for us to manage for our employees also. So I think we have seen that happening quite a lot, and I think a lot of companies do social good, but it is always top down. It's like, the management or the CEO's wife or someone taking a decision. But I think, volunteering is when it's bottom up. And when employees feel that, companies take their thought or their interest into mind. And that's what you've seen, volunteering leading to, at least from an employer brand perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we have 3 more minutes for questions. And there is a volunteering opportunity that is happening on one room on the site. If anybody wants to experience volunteering, I just did that in the morning. And it's an opportunity to make some food for the slums nearby that they'll get delivered actually within few minutes. So if you get the opportunity to do that, it was great. And thank you for the Goodera team to organize that. So we have time for a couple of minutes. Yes, 1, 2, 3. We have more questions? 4. So I'm going to take these 4. Yeah, we'll take them at the same time if you're comfortable. Sure. Yes. Would you introduce yourself? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Angita, go ahead. I'm coming to you.
Earn your bread and butter.
Right. Okay. So we'll come back to that. Yes, please. So would you introduce yourself as well? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Manmohan. We had 2 questions here as well. Yes, please go ahead.
Avery Dennison, it's a manufacturing organization. So my question is for Amit. I hire a lot of campus guys, and to kind of retain them, if I'm giving them the opportunities, this is fine. But I still feel challenge on 2 aspects. If I'm giving a lot of work, then they ask me for the more remuneration. If I'm giving them less opportunity, then they're saying, okay, we just have to kind of, and constantly, I think somebody talked about that they're constantly looking for a change. If I just go to any of the portals, their CV is there. Though they are in the system from 2-3 years, but that is a constant challenge which I personally face. If at all I give them the 100 opportunity, they'll still kind of have some issues. So how do you manage that part?
Thank you, Neha. We had one more question, I think, on this side. Where was that? Oh, here. Sorry. Yeah, you can pass it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, my name is also Neha.
Yes,
Neha Asthana. I work as head of talent acquisition for a company called Media.net.
Yeah.
So my question is, now the conversation has already started changing with terms to employer branding for not just millennials, Gen Z is entering the workforce, right? So a lot of the focus has already gone to Gen Z. Millennials are feeling shortchanged that, oh, the focus just came on to us and you guys are already shifting it to Gen Z, right? So, and you were talking about what percentage of, the companies is millennials. For us, is I think the average age for Media.net is 24. So we have a lot of youngsters working for us, and now Gen Z is coming in. So what are some of the, employer brand-related tactics, which focus on millennials that also overlap with Gen Z, that you feel we could use right now?
Great. So these are 4 very big questions. You want to take on the Goodera questions first in terms of what's the business model and whether you're looking also at directly B2C or students or individuals who maybe want to be volunteering themselves.
So in terms of business model, it's a SaaS platform, so companies subscribe to it and employees get access to it. And it integrates with your internal systems, and it's a platform where you could log in, choose which volunteering activity is it, education, healthcare, pets, children, which location, which state. You could get your teams together. So we have seen also individual teams go and volunteer, and then there's an annual subscription model based on the size and scale of the company, and it's operational now in 70 countries. So you have local opportunities there. Right now we are just purely focused on companies, but we have companies with as less as 10 employees to 100,000 employees using the platform. It's also to ensure, security at the non-profit side as to who is coming and stuff like that. So right now it's B2B, but over time we would get it more. We have some, open slots where we get students to volunteer, but it's not like a public, but we would work with some universities. So for example, let's say when IIM Bangalore had their alumni day, we had that open to all students and stuff like that. So, but over time, the objective is that everyone should volunteer and give more and more as much as possible, and then you could run campaigns and donations and a whole bunch of other stuff as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhishek. So I'm taking your question, Neha, first. So if I can request one tip each in terms of how do you manage this dilemma, and you are dealing with it as well as a hiring manager yourself, and you probably have those challenges as well. How do you deal with the fact that, I want more work and more exposure, but if I'm doing more work, then I want to get paid more. So that's one dilemma. And on top of that, I'm constantly anyway looking out. So is there any one tip that you have? I don't know if there's any silver bullet, but
maybe
just one thing.
My tip would be the fact that if you're able to take care of these new entrants for the initial 90 days, my take is the fact that, with proper hand-holding, and typically, if what works pretty well in most of the organization today, especially organizations like us as well, is the fact that the so-called the mentorship program for new millennials, and that to mentors being millennials who have been a part of the system, works pretty well. That's point number 1. Another tip. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
I will connect after the session.
Yes,
Adhan,
because I have the other Neha's question as well to
we are a slightly flatter, more nimble. Adhan, we are 4 years old, so so we just give them more
just
money.
100 years away. Just like
and
that.
the more they work, the better it is. Good for both. So
So last question, and I'm going to change it a little bit, Neha, to make it sharper. One thing we could do to get ready for Gen Zs. One thing each. And then we'll close. Futuristic.
Yeah, at least for us, what has worked is just communicating impact of their work. So, for example, we just put a television inside our office where people can see where our platform is used across the world, and that just created, tons of motivation. I think it's like instant gratification in a way, but I think that just helps that you could see the impact very soon. It's not that you wait for 6 months or a year and then something happens.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Maybe just to add on to what Abhishek said would be a constant feedback would be really of great help to these set of population, because gone are the days that people will wait for annual performance review cycle to seek a feedback. They want things instantly. And I think that works pretty well.
So that's one subset on the other.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So thank you so much, Amit. Thanks,
Pleasure.
Abhishek. Thanks so much for the opportunity.